All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to No Final Bell episode 25. Sorry for the little delay there, but yes, we have hit the 25 episode mark. Took us long enough, but we have finally gotten there. We are half of where Sunday morning Tinkle is, but eventually we'll hit that mark first. But before we um, go on, man, tell you what, feels good to be here. Feels good that Tinkle's, you know, got the shows we do. I kind of wish we could add some more. Maybe we can have a little meeting to discuss some more because I would love to do something music wise on this channel, if not basketball during the season. But we'll see what happens. But take it away, Marty, for Impact and
Yeah,
NWA talk.
first off, I'm starting with some NWA talk. Um, there wasn't a lot to digest for this week, but I do have some notes. So we start off with the Dirty Sexy Boys of Dirty Dango and JTG, Jay the God, beating the Ill Begotten in essentially a 3-on-2 handicap match. Then we get to a segment with Kiera Hogan and Mae Valentine. She goes heart to heart, and she's saying how she was inspired by Mickie James, and she's talking about how she is now an inspiration to young men and women who want to pursue their dreams of being a pro wrestler, which you know it's a great thing. And even then, like, not a lot of people, knowing that we have so many outlets of professional wrestling nowadays, it's very great to see that Kiera Hogan is saying this, that she can inspire young men and young women to pursue their dreams and be a wrestler. But regardless, next we get to a match between Scion and Sal Rinauro. Scion beats Sal Rinauro, and then we get to the main event of Trevor Murdoch and Mike Knox for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, a rematch from Hard Times 2. And of course, Trevor Murdoch retains the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. Now we get on to Impact. We start off the night with Josh Alexander. There was a lot to take in with this segment. It was a very long segment as well. I'll try to narrow it down, but basically what it is Josh Alexander is tired of just waiting around. Like, yeah, he's fighting for the representation of Impact Wrestling and No Surrender, but he still wants the Impact World title. But, one thing leads to another. Big Con, this is the big one. Big Con, formerly known as Connor from the Ascension, interrupts Josh Alexander, which then in turn it's an impromptu match in which Josh Alexander wins by tapping out Big Con, does not release the hold. It prompts Scott D'Amore to come down and essentially, like, calm down Josh Alexander, but it just leads to Josh Alexander, like, he basically just wanted, like, he told Scott D'Amore straight up, like, what do I need to do to earn an Impact World Championship match? And Scott D'Amore is saying, like, hey, we need to trust the process. And Josh Alexander's like, screw the process. I'm done with this corporate BS crap. Like, you know, friend to friend, give me a world title shot because I've earned it. I've worked my ass off for this. But what happens is Scott D'Amore sends Josh Alexander home, which, in layman terms, he sends him home. But what it may actually be is that Josh Alexander's contract with Impact Wrestling is up. Therefore, he's a free agent now. So, but regardless, now that Josh Alexander has been sent home by Scott D'Amore, it left a spot open for Team Impact at No Surrender. We will get to that later on in the night. But we also have an announcement for a match at No Surrender. Eric Young will face Jay White. Then we get to Deonna Purrazzo's open challenge for any one of her 2 championship titles, whether it be the AAA Reina de Reinas Championship or the Ring of Honor Women's World Title. Who comes out to answer the open challenge but a debuting Santana Garrett? She ends up losing to Deonna Purrazzo for the Ring of Honor Women's World Title, but regardless, then after the match, get to a backstage segment, and initially they want to recruit Jonathan Gresham for Team Impact, but we will get to that later on. Then we get to a match between Chelsea Green and Mickie James. It ends in a no contest after Savannah Evans and Tasha Steelz interfere. More backstage stuff as Bhupinder Gujjar, the newest hire, I guess you could say, to Impact Wrestling, is happy to be there, but he's still walking away from Raj Singh. Raj Singh wants to recruit him, and Bhupinder just does not want to. But then the inspiration was able to persuade Caleb with a K to take pictures for them with Caleb's new gift of a new phone. Then we get to in-ring. Bullet Club and the Good Brothers exchange a war of words, which the main thing to take away from that is Tama Tonga was like really just saying some words toward the Good Brothers and really just taking shots at their former place of employment, being WWE, and how they were saying like, oh yeah, look at all your failed attempts to recreate the Bullet Club in WWE. But after that segment, Jonathan Gresham is found hurt backstage, so it essentially rules him out for being on the side of Team Impact. Next week, or just no, at No Surrender, it will be Matt Cardona versus Jordan Grace for the Digital Media Championship. Matt Cardona wants Jordan Grace to be ready and claims that he created the digital media division and says that he's the reason behind wrestlers using the internet to get themselves over. Which, I hate to say it, but Matt Cardona has a point. He's the one that started the True Long Island story back in 2011 and got himself over in WWE. Granted, it didn't get himself over enough to really be like a main event guy, but it still got him over with the fans, and it still got him over like as so. Then we get to more in-ring action. Honor No More's Mike Bennett and Matt Taven. We know them best as OGK in Ring of Honor and NWA, but in Impact Wrestling, they are part of Honor No More. They beat Rhino and Rich Swann with the help of Maria. But after the match, Steve Maclin comes to the aid of Team Impact, which it prompts Team Impact to hold a meeting, and you see the faithful of Ring of Honor with Ian Riccaboni, Kerry Silken, and the ring announcer Bobby Cruz all saying like, "Hey, we've known Steve Maclin for a long time. He may not be the backbone of Impact Wrestling, but hey, if he's got a bone to pick with Honor No More, and if you got anybody to fight your battles with you against Honor No More, it's Steve Maclin." And with that, Steve Maclin is now the final member of Team Impact. But on BTI, Giselle Shaw makes her presence known, and next week she will make her in-ring debut against Lady Frost. Also next week, we have Tasha Steelz and Savannah Evans versus Chelsea Green and Mickie James, Kenny King of Honor No More versus Chris Sabin, and Violent by Design versus Bullet Club. That one is going to be an interesting one. And then in the main event, W. Morrissey beats Brian Myers in a no DQ match, which, by the way, it was a brutal ending. There were thumbtacks involved. But after the match, Moose beats him down, furthering the angle heading into the match at No Surrender. These I have no doubt in my mind that these two are going to tear the house down for the Impact World Championship. Literally, at the time of recording this, it will be next week, February 19th. So by the time you're watching this video on Wednesday, it will only be a few days, in a few days' time. But when we were recording this, it is literally the next week.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for NWA and Impact Talk. We are going to switch paces to AEW, where, starting off wise, we didn't kind of get the way that we thought it would. Well, on the show, I will say, well, we kind of told you so. We did tell you that there was high speculation that MJF was going to give CM Punk his first loss in Chicago. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it happened. And what better way to have the whole entire Pinnacle come out to start off the show to celebrate MJF's win. And then by a big surprise, CM Punk coming out and wanting a rematch. And then has Sting and Darby out there with him. But MJF is like, well, Punky, the only way I'm going to give you a rematch is if you go out and find a partner to face off against FTR later on in the night. But going for it, Andrade finally meets up with Sting and Darby and says he has better things to do and then says that Darby has better things to do than work for Sting. But Sting and Darby not taking that offer from Andrade. But then Andrade says that he has better things to do than work. Darby ended up saying that he has better things to do than work for Andrade, like become the new TNT champion. Well, ladies and gentlemen, next week.
Tonight.
Later tonight. Darby Allin will get his opportunity against Sammy Guevara for the TNT Championship.
The undisputed TNT Championship.
Now, I don't know if it's going to be with Darby winning or Sammy Guevara, but it's going to be a very highly anticipated match. It's also going to be a highly anticipated night as well, because I think there's a lot of great matches that are on for the card later tonight. But going forward, the best sign of the week, the Forbidden Door Open Sesame. Yeah, I would happen to agree, because we'll eventually say who opens up that Forbidden Door later on in the show. Wardlow beat the Blade, and Shawn Spears uses the chair to steal the spotlight away from Wardlow yet again. Wardlow, what are you doing? When is going to be the babyface turn for you? It's coming. I know it is.
Yeah, I mean, after all, during that segment with the Pinnacle, he didn't even celebrate. He just kind of stood in the corner and was just waiting in anticipation, just like.
Because we all know he's going to be in the face of the Revolution ladder match. We all know. I don't know if he has to qualify, but we all know that he's going to be a part of it. And it is written in his contract that if he was to win the face of the Revolution ladder match and win the TNT Championship, it's automatically given to MJF, which leads me to speculation that Wardlow might win it and lead into a big TNT Championship feud with MJF. That's what I'm thinking.
Possible.
And honestly, I would be totally fine with that, because it gives new opportunities for Wardlow and keeps him going to potentially build him up for the future to be maybe a future AEW World Champion. Which, I mean, he's not exactly the best, but it'd be the right step into a bright future. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we all know what happened to Penta El Zero Miedo, the Black Mist. It's kind of interesting. He's going to be bringing out a new mask and possibly a new persona because of it.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I've heard about it. I've kind of seen some stuff on Twitter. I don't know too much about like his new, but I've heard about like his new essentially like Penta like essentially I feel like what it's building to is Pentagon Dark from like Lucha Underground or whatever it was, where he kind of had a darker personality. He was more like evil, sinister, because that's essentially what the Black Mist did to Penta. It made him like more sinister, more evil. So I think basically what it's going to lead to is maybe Penta will betray his brother and betray Pac in the Death Triangle and the Lucha Brothers and join the House of Black as Pentagon Dark. That's my
that'd be
thought.
something. We'll definitely have to watch and see what happens. But as of right now, honestly, I would like to see the Death Triangle get a little bit more edgier and try to
Yeah.
go back after the House of Black and face off against them. But we'll happen
Although
to see what happens with that.
although it will be interesting to see like how the name of like, because we all know that Pentagon's like his whole name situation came from like a trademark issue or whatever with I think AAA or something like that, where he couldn't he could no longer use the name Pentagon Junior. So that's why his name is Penta El Cerro Miedo. Penta. So it'll be interesting. Like if they go that route of like making him Pentagon Dark, like his persona in Lucha Underground, it would be interesting to like to see how they go about that. Like, would he even be able to be Pentagon Dark, or is that still part of like the trademark issue naming like thing? But
Yeah,
yeah, we'll just have to see what happens with that.
I know it was like saying something like Penta says, you know, that's like I could kind of um I mean, I wasn't really paying too much attention to it, but all I know is that it's going to be a new side of himself, a darker side of himself. Um, it's going to add some red into the mask, so we'll definitely have to see what happens. But going forward, Pride and Powerful say that Chris only cares about himself and says he was always in the way to hold them back, which could be very truthful. I mean, he probably was always in the way of holding back um, Pride and Powerful, where Chris is like, well, you guys had an opportunity after the World Tag Team titles. You lost. That's not my fault. You know, you lost. Well,
Kind of is.
I mean, it could be. It could be his fault. But because of that, Sammy Guevara leads the group until things get figured out.
Not
So,
the first time he's left the group either, because when granted that was a long time ago, and it's crazy to even think about, but
so the first question I have is, will the inner circle finally will they get their shit together and figure things out between Pride and Powerful and
something
Chris
tells
and
me
Jake
no.
Hager?
Something tells me no.
Yeah,
But
probably not.
going back to the thing about Sammy Guevara leaving the group, it's not the first time. After all,
No.
it was granted it was a while ago when it happened, but remember when MJF and Wardlow were part of the inner circle? Sammy wanted no part of it because he knew, and Chris Jericho didn't take the hint until later on, but Sammy knew the whole time that MJF was going to turn on Chris Jericho to make his own like little to have his own plans in place,
Yep.
but
Because of all of that, that's what
that's what
started the
started the
pinnacle.
pinnacle,
Yep.
and that's what led to Stadium Stampede 2.
Yeah, I know. And it was a really, really good match there. All the Stadium Stampedes have been really, really good. Who's not to say that that could happen between the Elite and the Best Friends, which
It's entirely possible.
high speculation that's not gonna. I thought there was gonna be a faction versus faction, but I honestly think that in May it's going to be the Stadium Stampede between, because it always seems like they do Double or Nothing in Daly's place. So I think it's going to be Double or Nothing in Daly's place again, which is basically AEW's second home. They like to go there all the time. I don't know why, but they have a heart in Jacksonville, probably because Tony Khan is got some like part owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars there. His dad is the owner there, so high speculation that there's going to probably be another Stadium Stampede 3 between the Best Friends and the Elite, which would be totally fine with me. I would like to see that happen. I thought it would happen at Revolution, but Revolution, they never have the Stadium Stampede match. So, going forward, Chris and Jake Hager will face off against Pride and Powerful next week. Thoughts about that? Who do you think that might win later tonight in that match, which is going to be a very highly anticipated tag team match?
I mean, I feel like this is probably the one and only exception of, like, wins and losses don't matter, because basically this is just to sort out any possible wrongdoing with the Inner Circle. So it's just to settle, like, some beef that the two sides, the two men in teams might have.
The thing is how much of this it could be like a worked, like, shoot type of thing between the two teams, where it leads to, somehow they rejoin and reform the Inner Circle bigger and better than anything. Because honestly, it wouldn't shock me. It really wouldn't.
Well, to your point, what if we get a reunion of, like, LAX in a sense? Because the whole, like, the new age of LAX from Impact Wrestling was Santana, Ortiz, Diamante, and Eddie Kingston. So
we very well could be getting that in.
Who's to say we couldn't get the reunion of LAX?
I've been saying it all along. I mean, I thought that Sammy Guevara was going to stay with the Inner Circle, but he's very focused on his singles career, which good for Sammy. I'm glad that he's getting that singles push and hitting the lights out with that. As far as Chris Jericho and Jake Hager, I mean, it's cool to see that these two teams are just hashing out and just getting the beef out of the way, but I was really thinking it was going to be Chris Jericho, Jake Hager, and Sammy Guevara versus Brian Powerful and Eddie Kingston, but fortunately, I guess we're not going to get that anytime soon. But again, man, tell you that Forbidden Door was wide open, and we get the
Switchblade
himself,
Jay White. Needless to say, Jay White has been a very busy man in professional wrestling.
Yeah, see, that's what I was going to say earlier. But
keeping his hands dirty in Impact Wrestling and now AEW.
Yes. The leader of the Bullet Club has finally arrived in AEW. He is the Forbidden Door signing.
And it's just too sweet.
Yeah. But the debuts didn't end there.
They don't stop there. Bask in his glory, folks.
No, well, I was going to say, Isaiah Cassidy comes out to start off the match. He's ready to see who his opponent is for the face of the Revolution.
Bask in his glory, folks.
The Limitless One himself, Keith Lee, is finally done with WWE. His no-compete clause has ended, and the free agent has officially signed with All Elite Wrestling, and his run doesn't just end there. He beats Isaiah Cassidy and will be going to the Face of the Revolution ladder match at Revolution.
Just let Keith Lee be Keith Lee. That's pretty much what it all boiled down to.
Yeah, if WWE let Keith Lee be Keith Lee, who is a former NXT and North American champion, held it
simultaneously
at the same time. Who's to say he can't do that in AEW, and being the TNT and the AEW World Heavyweight Champion at the same time? Now that would be something. That would be that would be a slap in WWE's face right there.
Absolutely.
If that was to happen. And who is to say it can't? It could very well happen that he holds both of those titles at the same time. Yeah. But Keith Lee, again, I'm gonna say this now, and I'm gonna make my rant possibly as short as possible. WWE, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
You are messing up so much. There are some of the top free agents that don't even want to go to your company anymore because they're such in fear that they're going to be there for like a month or two and then end up trying to find work yet again and having to wait like 3 months before they can work somewhere else.
Yep.
Nobody wants that. They don't want to just go to the WWE where it used to be the top dog company. No, it's not the top dog company. The top dog companies right now are New Japan Pro Wrestling, maybe NWA, but I would say Impact and AEW.
Bingo.
That's where all the top talent want to go. Those 3 companies right there. They don't want to go to the WWE. WWE right now, most of your talent is purebred.
Yeah.
Not even independent guys. It's purebred talent from the Performance Center. They don't want anybody outside is like WWE, nope.
Mm-hmm.
Impact, maybe. AEW, maybe. New Japan Pro Wrestling, maybe. NWA, maybe. I mean, but they go there and then like, oh yeah, these are the top brands right now. So right now, WWE, yeah, I guess I can say where, it might be looking a little bad for AEW since because most of their talent right now is former WWE talent. But they're making it work, aren't they? Yeah. They're making it work.
And even then, these former WWE guys, they need a home anyway. So, don't just look at every single, AEW signing that's a former, as, oh, yeah, it's a former WWE guy. It's like, oh, that's my biggest gripe is that every single WWE, former WWE superstar that gets signed to AEW, everybody looks at it and is like, oh, AEW is about to become WCW 2.0. No, they are not. Because WCW's problem was they were trying to be too much like WWE. AEW is not at all trying to be like WWE.
No, not at all.
As a matter of fact, they're trying to break away from the norms that WWE has set.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, they're more so like the modern day ECW, if anything.
They're starting a revolution, which is exactly what
I hate to say it, WWE,
did.
but if you see all these other companies, maybe minus the effect of NWA is more so trying to become it's kind of like a sense of WWE comedy, really.
Let me get into that because NWA has a very niche product for a very niche audience.
Yeah.
So, I will watch it because I enjoy wrestling, but I can also respectfully say that NWA is not for everybody. It's a very old school, it's run with a very old school mentality. Everything, the way the brand is brought up, very old school. Just the entirety of NWA is old school. The company itself has been around since the 40s. So,
right.
It's
and I wanted to say this as well. So, there's high speculation even after the Keith Lee match when um it was all almost said and done for Isaiah Cassidy to get beaten by Keith Lee. Matt Hardy left into the crowd the same way that Jeff Hardy got fired from WWE. And
Even Tony Schiavone said it was erratic behavior, which they know what they're doing. They're teasing Jeff Hardy in AEW. They know exactly what they're doing. Matt Hardy knows a secret that we potentially don't know.
plus, Matt Hardy also said if Isaiah Cassidy was to lose that match, that big changes would be coming to the AHFO, the Andrade Hardy family office. Um, I mean, I'm pretty sure those changes are to bring in his brother Jeff Hardy, or there's even high speculation that Hardy was going to leave the Andrade Hardy family office to join up with Jeff Hardy. But I don't think that's what's going to happen at all. Um, we'll happen to have to see what happens going forward. But right now, it just looks really bad on Private Party's part. But after the match, Private Party, what are you trying to do? You're trying to beat down Keith Lee after the match? Where it was such a bad idea. Keith Lee was beating the living crap out of Private Party after that match, where got a power bomb onto the hardest part of the ring. But man, Keith Lee is definitely here to bring a vengeance and prove WWE that they were wrong for getting rid of him in the first place, because the Bearcat is no more.
No. That was a stupid name, a stupid nickname, anyways.
Because the Limitless one, and you must bask in his.
Oh, bask in his glory. Oh, bask in his glory.
But we'll get away from that talk for right now. Next week, we are going to finally see the no DQ match between Mercedes Martinez and Thunder Rosa. Our thoughts on that one?
I mean,
I think it should have been saved for Revolution pay-per-view, but honestly, it's all right.
regardless, Mercedes Martinez and Thunder Rosa are just gonna beat the shit out of each other.
Yes, they are, and I'm hoping
it's
going to
essentially two Latinas having no limits, no restrictions. You don't mess with a Latina woman. You
nope,
don't.
you do not at all. But I'm definitely hoping that there's going to be bad blood and it's going to be a great match between the two women. And honestly, I'm hoping it leads to bigger and better things for both. I would like to see Thunder Rosa win, but something tells me that that's not what's going to happen because they're kind of building up Mercedes Martinez for something. But I honestly thought that CM Punk's partner was going to be a new signing. Well, unfortunately, that's not what happened. But he got an even better person. He got Jon Moxley instead, who ends up being his partner. And they beat FTR in a very highly anticipated back and forth tag team match.
It was old school tag team wrestling at its finest, which I didn't even realize it until people started saying it, like on Twitter and whatnot. Like, people are praising that tag team match because of its old school tag team wrestling feel. And I guess I was just kind of like dozing off or whatever, because I didn't even really let it sink in until probably after the fact of like, maybe this is old school tag team wrestling.
But yes, they beat FTR, which which makes CM Punk finally be able to get his rematch at MJF. But will it be at Revolution?
Maybe.
I'm thinking so. They'd be too dumb to not have it at Revolution. It's a very pay-per-view like quality match. And I'm going to say this now. This is where CM Punk gets redemption and beats him when it matters on a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
You'll beat him in Orlando, Florida. So, yes. CM Punk will get revenge at Revolution and beat MJF this time. which will help him lead into a future title shot. But I tell you, the debuts just keep on coming. AQA is now All Elite. The former NXT wrestler makes her debut, who was trained by Booker T, and her attire is very Harlem Heat inspired. But her debut was very short lived, even though she did pull out some great things, like the shooting star press on
Yeah.
Jay Cargill. There was some moments in that match where I thought, oh, maybe she might be the woman that can actually come in and beat Jay Cargill, 25-year-old.
Would have been a hell of a debut.
Hey, weirder things have happened in professional wrestling before.
Well,
We had,
look at Paige
yes, Paige beating AJ Lee on her debut, so anything is possible.
for the Divas Championship
But
back in 2000.
Jay Cargill remains undefeated, 27-0 as a
Who can
TV.
stop the path of Jade Cargill?
I have no idea, because they need to figure out who's going to be her next opponent. And I'm hoping it's going to be a new woman signing.
I almost said who can stop the path of Paige, but it's like, no, he's... Something tells me he's on his way out, which is very unfortunate because
Yeah, I think so
you
too.
wasted a signing on Brian Cage.
Honestly, with all the signings we have right now, I don't think you really need him, but that's just me. But Jake Cargill still remaining undefeated and is looking like the best champion, and really showcasing that is that bitch show, all right. But Serena Deeb, I don't know what's going up with her, but she is issuing a 5-minute rookie challenge. I don't know if that's going to be every week type of thing or just a one-off thing. And beats her opponent in like no time flat. I didn't even write down a name because it wasn't important. She just beat her opponent.
If it's gonna lead to a new thing with Serena Deeb issuing like what she calls rookie challenges, something tells me that we may or may not see Scarlett Bordeaux show up as a quote unquote rookie and take on Serena Deeb.
It wouldn't shock me. I mean, it wouldn't shock
technically,
me if, you know, Johnny, whatever the hell you want to call him at this point, becomes Johnny Elite.
but even then, like, well, but yeah, because technically, Scarlett Bordeaux is like, what I would consider, but at the same time, she's more of that like wrestler who doesn't really take it seriously. She's just kind of there as like eye candy. But
Mm,
regardless, I think that it could lead to something with Scarlett Bordeaux.
yeah, probably. But
Or if not her, Taya Valkyrie.
yeah, I was gonna think that too. Man, what a hell of a main event for Dynamite, and a very back and forth bloody exchange between both men. But the top rope gets unhinged by Dan Lambert, because of course it did. But man, if there was anything, it was this last moment. Adam Hangman Page beats Lance Archer by knockout after the buckshot lariat over Paul Turner through 2 tables to knock out Lance Archer to retain the AEW World title, which prompted Adam Cole to come out after the match and holding the title up. Could there be a match in the future? I think so, and it's going to be at Revolution. You are finally going to see Adam Cole versus Adam Hangman Page. The Battle of the Atoms.
Hey, listen, Adam Cole, baby, wants some gold, baby.
And I think there's some high speculation that he might beat Adam Hangman Page, and this might still be a little early, but we'll happen to see. But man, Revolution right now is shaping up to be a pretty great pay-per-view so far. But man, AEW just puts together some bangers. of stuff that makes you really
They never disappoint.
want you to spend that $60 every single time. And actually, I think it's
50.
50. Yeah,
Yeah.
spend that $50 every single time, and just like, yeah,
They never disappoint, though, man.
I want to watch that pay-per-view now.
They never disappoint.
And let me tell you something. We've almost watched not every single AEW pay-per-view.
We have not watched every single one, but we've watched every other one. We started watching, we started paying to watch AEW pay-per-views since Double or Nothing 2020.
Yes, and they haven't disappointed ever since then at all.
I mean, if you want to get technical, it started with Fyter Fest and then Fight for the Fallen back in 2019, but those were essentially free per-views.
Yes, exactly. Going into the Rampage side of things, the Young Bucks beat, how you pronounce it?
Roppongi Vice.
Roppongi Vice. And Rocky Romero and Trent Beretta. Man, I really did think that Roppongi Vice there were going to beat the Young Bucks, but no, it did not happen. But Bryan Danielson is interviewing Tony Schiavone, which prompts Matt Sydal to come and be like, hey man, what's this all about me not being such a great mentor to Lee Moriarty? He's like, no man, you're doing a really good job. But we should, we need to see some more violence out of him. Where Lee Moriarty steps in front of both men and be like, hey man, you gotta let me talk. Don't be talking, about me behind my back like I'm a nobody.
He basically said, "Don't talk about me, don't talk about me like I ain't standing right behind you," kind of thing.
Which prompts Bryan Danielson to be like, "Good, somebody that can step up for themselves." I want to, and it says like, I want to see that violence out of you. Later tonight, Bryan Danielson wants to see the violence from Lee Moriarty. Thoughts? Are we going to see a violent Lee Moriarty?
I think we're going to see a violent side to Lee Moriarty. I think we're going to see a more violent side to Tyga style.
It would be nice, but I really do think that Bryan Danielson is just going to end up beating him anyway, because I don't know what's Bryan Danielson and the whole thing with him heading into Revolution is, but right now doesn't seem like to be very many plans for Bryan Danielson.
Well, you just gotta let him be the American Dragon.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course. So, Bryan Danielson, Lee Moriarty, hopefully we get to see a very violent side of Lee Moriarty, because I really think that he is the future of AEW. But speaking of future of AEW, Britt Baker beats Robin Renegade. And then after the match, Britt gives her the lockjaw, and then Thunder Rosa beats the holy hell out of Britt Baker. Like, throwing some haymakers into Britt Baker. Man.
She is legitimately trained in mixed martial arts.
But Jamie Hayter and Mercedes Martinez stop Thunder Rosa and beat her down. But Jamie Hayter and Mercedes Martinez, as of right now, are not seeing very eye to eye in Britt Baker's group. Is there, there might be some speculation that Mercedes Martinez and Jamie Hayter might go up against each other.
Entirely possible. If not even Hayter and Britt Baker.
Yeah, I can see probably that happening too.
They've been teasing that for a while now, even longer than Mercedes and Britt, or even Mercedes and Hayter.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, don't you worry. AEW sent Hook, and Hook beat Blake Lee with the Red Rum submission move.
Essentially the Taz mission.
Yes. But, man, they don't disappoint. But also in the match between the Young Bucks and Roppongi Vice, We saw
Danhausen.
Danhausen.
He cursed the Young Bucks.
He cursed the Young Bucks, but yet his curses have not been working in AEW because
No,
they've been working in the opposite way. They've been helping the people that he's been cursing winning the matches, actually.
The only curse that has worked so far from Danhausen is Adam Cole, although it does not count towards his record.
Yes, it does. Yeah. So, okay, I guess, his curse has worked, but this time it did not work in his favor. But
eventually, I feel like eventually Danhausen's curses will work on somebody.
now, the real question I have is, when are we going to see the official debut of Danhausen? I know
the in-ring debut.
I know that he's still recovering from injuries and stuff like that, and he can only do so much right now. But when are we officially going to see his in-ring debut? The timetable, I have no idea what his timetable of return is, but as soon as he is fully healthy, I'm sure we're going to see quite a bit of Danhausen. And I think we're going to probably see him on Rampage quite a bit.
All I know is I'm just ready to see him pour a jar of teeth down somebody's throat.
But going forward, Jurassic Express beat the Ass Boys. And
That's what they are.
I mean the Gun Club to retain the World Tag Team titles.
They should just embrace being called the Ass Boys.
And honestly, in a decent back and forth match, but it makes you think of who the heck are going to go after the Jurassic Express for their World Tag Team titles, because they had to have at least one opponent. And honestly, I'm really speculating it's going to be Pride and Powerful at Revolution.
Entirely possible.
It would be nice to see Pride and Powerful win the tag team titles right then and there, but we'll see what happens, honestly. Kind of a shorter episode, guys, but that is it for this episode of No Final Bell. Please follow us on social media and Tinkle Sports down below. Make sure to, follow this channel at Tinkle Sports and Entertainment. And always, every Wednesday at 5, watch No Final Bell with Marty and Jason here. Every Sunday at 9 a.m. is Sunday Morning Tinkle, and then every Tuesday at 5 is Out of Turn 4. As far as Sunday Morning Tinkle, we are going to be having a lot, and I mean a lot of news about, well, of course, we don't know who won the Super Bowl yet. We're recording on a Saturday. So we will be talking about, on that channel, the beginning half of who won the Super Bowl, our thoughts about it. And then, of course, the second half of the game will probably be mostly NHL and a lot of basketball news. And I mean a lot. The NBA world has been shaken up because of all of these trades. You'll have to watch Sunday Morning Tinkle to find out all about it. But as always, see you in the next video.